Welcome back to HotRodGuyGarage. Today, we got to turn this into something we can use for a 66 Mustang budget drag car. So follow me along through that intro, and I'll be back. So alright guys, another day. Need to make some more progress on 66 Mustang that's sitting behind me. So as you've seen, the wiring harness over there is quite a mess, but I don't really have no choice but to use it. So let me flip it around. I'll show you some things I've done. We'll talk about this harness and what we need to do to make it usable. But first, make sure you check out our friends over at KentuckyMustang.com. There is a link and a discount code down in the description below to save you some money on classic Mustang parts, so you don't have to reuse old junk like what I am. Alright guys, so really nothing's changed since the last video on the car itself, after we got the mirrors and door handles and locks and stuff in it. Other than I went in there and I put the tag light in the bumper down there. I cleaned up an old one, it cleaned up fine, the harness looked okay on it, so we're going to run with that. Outside out here, I got the steering column hanging because I just painted it with some of the matching blue paint we painted roll cage with. Along with the lower steering column bracket, the brake pedal rod, the gas pedal out of that 70 Torino that went to Bill at Flatbroke Garage because I'm going to have to convert to a cable. I got it all painted up. I got our pedal hanger out here, but while I was inspecting it, I don't know if you can see right here, the bushing is split. So we're going to have to do a repair in this video on this pedal hanger. I dyed the sun visors black because it's going to be a drag and drive car. These are nice to have and they don't weigh a whole lot. And I got my clutch master cylinder adapter, the rod, and all the bolts out here all painted up. Well, there's always quite a bit of work off camera that I can't show you guys because it eats up so much time and ain't nobody really wants to watch it. Like wire brush and clean that stuff up. Fortunately, this car had a hydraulic clutch conversion in it when I bought it and was one of the reasons why I did buy it. So let's get back to this harness. So here's the wiring harness out of the 66. Yeah, don't look so hot, does it? And there's some more pieces of it down there. The only good thing about this harness is the wires on it are not hard and brittle. So, other than some possibly sketchy previous repairs that we're going to have to go in there and fix, I need to get this thing stretched out so I can examine its overall condition. So let's get to that. So, alright guys, I got this rat's nest laid out. Fortunately, there's not a whole lot of stuff that's really disturbed except for the taillight harness is all hacked up. I had another small section of a taillight harness there I can use to repair this one. Other than that, we just got some added things, probably from radios going by or such things, or a CB radio or something. We got a green wire out of the fuse box that's cut out of somewhere. Other than that, I left all the switches and stuff on here, all the plugs and everything that we may need. When I took this out, I didn't cut anything except for the taillight harness where I could pull it out, but I cut it back there in the back so it could be easily fixed. The underhood harness and headlight harness is quite the mess. So they got a big red wire run in that stops here, but there's nothing cut on the engine harness side of the plug. So all that looks alright, and really the headlight harness isn't that bad. You got your headlight plugs, your turn signals, you know, your horn plugs and stuff like that. But it's been cut on once again up here and right there. So it's going to take quite a bit of figuring out to actually get this usable, because I need to extract what I'm not using out of this to get some weight out of it, which means I'm gonna have to cut all this harness open and extract a few wires. And hopefully we'll end up with enough stuff to trigger an auxiliary relay board. So when we add our things like our EFI, our bigger fuel pump, you know, the aftermarket stuff that I'm going to add to this car to run our turbo 300 6-cylinder, I can use the factory harness to turn that portion on, but only use the factory harness for literally the turn signals, headlights, and brake lights, and use the factory switches, including the ignition switch. So that's the plan there. Another reason why I didn't buy a new harness, because I'm not going to use all of it. But I need to utilize as much of these factory leads and light wires and such as I can, while trying to cut down on the overall weight. So let me get a wiring diagram out here, and we'll start cutting some things out of this thing. Alright, so I got the wiring harness book where I put the harness in 65. The 66 ought to be super similar, especially on our basic stuff like our switches that we're going to use. So I'm going to use this, check it against our wire colors and make sure everything matches up, but I should be able to use this harness book to kind of dig around and figure out what we need to take out. Well, I got the taillight harness fixed. We got driver's side taillight plug, license plate light, passenger side plug. I left the factory fuel cylinder wire in there, but I clipped it off so I can connect it to our fuel cell. But I went in here, stripped all the old cloth coating off, 99% of the old tapes off. I went from that mess over there to this little small mess. So what we're down to is this connects to your turn signal switch. This connects to your turn signal switch. This is an accessory wire off the fuse box. This is the accessory wire off the fuse box. Headlight switch, the ignition switch, plug. I went in here and fixed wires where they'd cut it and run another wire out. Not real sure what this wire is because it's not shown in the 65 diagram, so I'll have to probe it when it's hot. But we're cut down to just the firewall stuff right here. Everything that went to the passenger side is gone. So we really lightened up this harness going this way. So at this point I need to get this harness cleaned up. So I'm going to take it outside, spray it with some degreaser, wash it off with a water hose. Since it's very hot and sunny today, I'm going to let this stuff dry. And then when I get it dry, we can tape it up. And then we can get it in there. So guys, about an hour's worth of time, get this thing cut down. I did leave some dash light wires and stuff. I just pulled them off into their own leg where it comes down. So I can run it to my aftermarket gauges for lights or, you know, powers for different things that I may need. So we'll deal with that once it's in the car. We start wiring up some of the aftermarket stuff later on. So I think I'm in a pretty good point, like I said, to get this thing cleaned up and dried out, and then I'll be back. Well, it's another day and about time to get started working on some more stuff on 66. But first, we got Daisy here that would like to remind you about our merchandise store down below. It gives her more pets and more treats and helps us just take care of things here. So, alright, several days later from getting the wiring harness cut down, I come in here in the background and cleaned up some things for this video, cleaned and painted some things. A gas pedal, the brake pedal support, the headlight buckets, the rear view mirror, all my clutch stuff, steering column, stuff like that, right? Well, I come across a huge problem on the pedal support. So, as you can see, I got the pedal support cleaned up and it's painted and it's in the vise over here. Well, if you look, and it's going to be hard to see, but down here, you see it is busted, right there. There's a big old crack. And what that does is let your clutch pedal waller around, and it lets your brake pedal waller around. You see it there? That's going to be a big problem. So, my 66 already had a hydraulic conversion in it where they've added the clutch pedal and I had this stuff apart. Apparently nobody noticed that the pedal assembly was junk. Well, all's not lost. You can buy this pedal support new if you want to. But also, Scott Drake sells a repair kit right here. And I got it from Kentucky Mustang. The SKU number on it is 5814. So, let's get these things in this pedal support. So, this is what it looks like. This thing is fairly cheap, guys. They're less than like 40 bucks. So, it's going to come with big metal bushings. It's going to come with little plastic bushings. It's going to come with clips to hold this into this once we get the original ones out. So, to do so, I've got to take this big bolt that runs straight through these pedals, take both the pedals off here, the brake and the clutch. And once I get them off, we'll have a clear look. So on this one, we just got a 15/16 bolt and a 15/16 nut. So let's get this out of here and see what we got. Clutch pedal should slide off over here. So clutch pedal's off. Bolt should slide out. We still have our bushings in our pedal and they look alright, but we got new ones, so we'll replace those. So brake pedal's out, pivot's out, and the pivot bushing on this side looked alright, but you can see these are loose in the pedal support. But now this is out, you can really see how wallered out that is. You could put a bushing in it, but it would never last because it'll just beat it right back out of it. So what we're going to have to do, we're going to have to get these out of this pedal support. There's one here, one right here. The easiest way I found is just cut these off with a saw. Yeah, it'll scratch your pedal assembly up a little bit. Just spray some more black paint on it. You're going to come, your kit's going to come with these bushings right here. They're going to go in from the inside. And they're going to have that snap ring that I showed you. And that snap ring's going to go around the outside. Right here. And that's going to hold those bushings into your pedal assembly. So, just a lot better way to do this than the old aluminum ones that break. These are made out of steel, so they should be here to the end. So get those in there on both sides, and then you're going to have a bushing on both sides that goes in there like that. And then you're going to have a bushing that goes in each side of your pedal like this, and then your pedal's going to go back up in here. I'll flip this around. Alright, so I'll flip this around, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take a little silicone based lube, like this brake lube right here. And I'm just going to lube our bushings on the inside. And I'm going to put a little bit in here on the insides of these metal sleeves. And then likewise, I want to put some on our bushings where they go through in here. So just something to help it as we go. And from this point, I'm going to stick our pedal back up in there. And the assembly, got our through bolt here. We'll stick it through. That way we can hang our clutch pedal back on. And wipe any of that extra lube that got pushed out off. We're going to hang our clutch pedal back on. Like that right there. And get our socket and a wrench. Give that a good tighten up. And now we have a significantly less amount of play than what we had. So, what you just seen in the last clip, I went in there and I welded these steel bushings to the pedal support. I was not happy with the amount of play that I had. Now, our pedals are good and snug. I don't have no floppy up and down play. There's still just a touch in the brake pedal. I mean, they're plastic bushings, so. But as you can see, they're not floppy loose. So with anything aftermarket, guys, you're gonna have to go in there and figure out if something's right, even if it comes as a kit like this. Like I said, it's very inexpensive. It's cheaper than buying a pedal hanger new. And like I said, I just spot welded it on top and bottom on both sides, just to take any play that was between the bushings and the original pedal assembly out of the equation. Alright, so got the clutch pedal assembly in there. Got our adapter plate and our wildwood slave cylinder bolted up. All that's tight. Our pedal hanger is tight to the firewall. These hold our steering column on there. So we need to get our seal that goes down there at our plate. And set some dirt. Get our seal and plate for down there at the floor. And then we can get that steering column over there and here. So guys, I had bought the Borgeson kit. You can buy it just for the steering column for stuff like this. I had installed it off screen, but you're gonna need a new firewall seal. The Borgeson steering column kit is going to come with a new plate. So the seal is going to be the same as the factory one. Once again, come from Kentucky Mustang. Right here is the part number. And as far as the conversion kit, I cut like 2 inches off the bottom of the column. It comes with a new piece over here that's held in with a screw. It comes with a new shaft that is shorter, that is splined on one side and splined on the other. So other than that, I just kind of scuffed this up, sprayed it blue like a roll cage, because it don't have to be show ready, it just needs to function. And I'll drop a screenshot of that Borgeson kit. If you're going to keep factory steering stuff, guys, that part's not needed. That's why I didn't cover installing it, because I'm not installing the Borgeson kit because we have a Fox body rack and pinion in front of this car. I just needed something to connect the U-joint to where I could get a steering shaft connect to our rack and pinion. But this kit can be helpful in those applications. Alright, so now to cover the stuff I couldn't cover in the fast forward portion. Your steering column, you have a little metal plate up here that's got a half moon for the top of the column. On the bottom, you got a little collar right here. This collar has a notch on the back side, and there's a slot in the steering column that sits in. The kit, the plate right there, it attaches to the bottom firewall with a worm drive hose clamp. And out here, you end up with just a little small protrusion of the column itself and a spline that you can hook up down here when you build you a steering shaft. So guys, I know these last two videos haven't been a lot of fun stuff to watch, but I'd greatly appreciate it if you just at least hit that like button, comment down below, and just play in the background if you don't want to actually watch it. It helps me out way more than you'll ever know. So let's get the wiring harness in the car. So, got the harness inside the car. It's plugged up to the taillight harness down here. The fuse box is mounted in the factory position behind the roll bar right there. And I just run these wires down in the floor for now. I also went ahead and stuck my new master cylinder on there and put the brake pedal rod, that way I could level the pedals up and get the brake light switch on it. Going to use this Chrysler style master cylinder right here. Generally these are aluminum. Unfortunately, the dormer one I got is made out of cast iron, so kind of got screwed there. So I painted aluminum. I may look for a different one, but usually these 80s Chrysler master cylinders, they work pretty well in these situations. I like my pedal a little firmer than most people do. These have a 1 1/4 bore, or 1 1/8 bore, sorry. And they use standard fittings right here. But usually when they're made out of aluminum and they got the plastic reservoir, they're super light, and that's my attraction to them. So I got that hung up there, and all you got to do to use one of these master cylinders is drill out these holes for the 3/8 forward bolts, because Chrysler uses a 5/16 bolts to hold their master cylinders on. Fun facts. So next thing we need to do is get the dash switches all in. And a lot of you probably wondering, how you gonna put dash switches in when you don't have a dash? Got a solution. And the solution is I cut the factory dash down until I just had this. And no, it's not very beautiful and it's not very pretty. It's spray painted, guys, just like what I sprayed roll cage with. I just wanted something that matched. Once it's in the car, it's gonna sit like this, and it will look just fine, but allow me to use the factory light switch, ignition switch, and put the lighter socket over here on the side. And will let me attach it to the dash bar on the roll cage and back down to the kick panel where I removed it. And it also gives me an opportunity to show you guys how these switches go in these classic Mustang dashes correctly from the back side. So good bonus there for you guys, especially when it comes to this ignition switch stuff, the headlight switch, the lighter socket, how all this stuff actually functions and meets up to the dash on the back side. So let me put you guys on big stand. Let's get started. So let's start off with the most controversial thing, the ignition switch. A lot of people have lots of questions of how this attaches to inside the dash. And basically, guys, what you got here, this is your bezel. This will be on the outside of your dash. This little cup right here holds pressure via this spring to hold this together inside the dash metal. So what we're going to do, we're going to use ACP's ignition switch. SKU number for Kentucky Mustang is 4163. We're going to use Scott Drake's spacer. The SKU is 38.99 right here. And we're also going to use this bezel right here, which is Daniel Carpenter. SKU number is 138 from Kentucky Mustang. So with these three pieces, you should be able to install this switch into the dash. So basically what you're going to do, your cup is going to twist on there. There's two little notches and there's two little notches. You're going to just get that on there like that right there. It's going to fit loose. So what you're going to do, your bezel is going to go in, and there's two notches on it too, on either side, that line it up with the dash. Your bezel's going to go in, this is going to go in, and pretty much what you got to do, you're going to fight this into the dash, and you just push and twist. And like I said, this is one of the hardest things to do with dashing the car. As you can see, I just done it in just a few seconds there. And you got to make sure the switch lines up with this bezel in here. Yes, I know this thing is rough around here, but once you get that in there, you can take your switch and you just look at the back of your switch. You see it's got three tabs. You got two close together and one far apart. Two close together and one far apart. Pretty much your switch is just going to push in here, and you'll have to get it lined up. Follow the line, and sometimes, because you see back here in the back, you got a flat down there in the middle. You got a flat on the side of the switch. This flat and that flat line up. So sometimes your switch gets the button not pushed. There's a button in this switch. So you take a paper clip, push this in. You want to turn this switch backwards. There's a little notch in right here. That little notch aligns this flat with the inside your switch. And you should be able to take and just push your switch in and it lock in. So anytime you install this, make sure it works properly. Accessory, off, on, and start. So just like that, our switch is installed. So once your ignition switch is installed, our next one is the lighter socket. This is the old 66 lighter socket. I went in there and cleaned contact up. I wire brushed everything off to make sure it was clean. This is just going to be a hole filler for now. But this thing literally pushes in this like this in the hole. This piece goes in here and just twist on like that. And it provides the ground by scratching the dash on the back side, and your power goes in on this pole right here. So the lighter socket is just a few seconds. So our next one is going to be our headlight switch right here. This is the part number and the SKU number, 4174 through Kentucky Mustang. You're going to need a few more things. If you don't have anything, you're going to need this right here, which is our retainer, 5684. You're going to need the stem. This is what you actually pull to turn the lights on. And you're going to need the bezel. The bezel SKU is 137. And I did $25.96 on the stem. And you're also going to need the retainer tool right here. Kentucky Mustang sells this under Scott Drake. I do not have the SKU number, but I'll add it in that video right here. And this one would think that this switch would go in outer position over here. It is not the case. This switch actually goes in the inside. So I'm going to try to do my best to show you guys this right here. You're going to have your switch on the inside. You're going to have your bezel. Your bezel has a notch. That notch lines up with the notch in this dash. And you're going to have your retainer. Your retainer is going to drop through your bezel. Right here. The words on your bezel always go up. So what happens here is this goes through like this right here. And then this threads into your switch on the inside. This tool goes in here and drives the flats, and I'll show you those here in just a moment. But it makes it a lot easier to try to turn this stuff. I'll show you an alternate method here in a minute. But these things should screw in there easy. If they don't, so once your headlight switch is installed, it will be pointed towards the A pillar over here on the side. So this is like you looking down from top of the dash. It goes like that. It sits against the dash metal on this side. Your bezel and your retainer. Sometimes these aftermarket bezels and retainers, you'll have to run them down in there a few times with a wrench. You get them tight. But this tool comes in handy. With factory stuff, sometimes you can get away with just a flathead screwdriver, because the factory cutouts in here are much deeper, and a wide enough screwdriver can go in here and engage this. The Scott Drake tool actually fits the factory bezels a lot better than they do, or the factory retainers a lot better than they do these aftermarket ones. So just another thing to keep in mind, if your retainer is in good shape, keep it cleaned up a little bit and reuse it. Alright, we can't forget the wiper switch. I'm not using the wiper switch, so I've got this old one here. But your wiper switch is going to look like this, depending on if you got a 2 or 3 speed wiper switch. They both go in the same way. And you'll notice this switch has a flat on one side. There's a little bell behind the dash. It also has a flat. It's going to go in there like this right here. Likewise, you got a retainer similar to the headlight switch, except it is much shorter with the same cutouts and a bezel. The bezel also has a notch that lines up with the notch here. That corresponds with the notch in the dash. So it's going to go in here like this right here. And you're going to use the same tool that drives the light switch retainer for the wiper switch retainer. It's just going to screw in there just like that. And your knob has a little Allen right here. It's going to go in here, and there's a flat on this shaft. That Allen corresponds with that flat, and you're just going to go in here and tighten it down, and just like that, your wiper switch is installed. I didn't tighten this one down because I'm going to remove it. I'm not going to have anything in this switch position, but to install the wiper switch, that's exactly what you're going to do, except you're going to go ahead and tighten that retaining nut all the way down. Alright guys, so here's what I've done. As you can see, I just bent the tabs up to mount the instrument cluster. Got our headlights. I still got to put a support brace on the bottom of this, but we'll have our factory ignition switch, we'll have our factory light switch, we'll have our factory turn signals that work, factory brake lights, And we'll have a lighter socket to charge our phone and camera stuff up on the road. And as typical, it is yeah, dropping the wet stuff out of the sky once again. So that also means it is very, very muggy and very, very humid very, very fast. For the record, it's about 90 degrees today, and you know, 80-90% humidity, so yeah, super nice. Makes it even better than what it already was. So I guess the next thing I need to do is get the switches plugged up to that, and we can start taping this stuff up as I run it on the back side in here. I'm gonna run it like factory behind, but I'm gonna run it behind this brace instead of in front of it. Just where it don't stick out like a sore thumb. And I also need to make a little gauge panel that goes above that so that we can mount some aftermarket gauges in it, but that'll be stuff for later. Main goal here is we're going to get the harness in the car that'll work off the factory stuff, you know, as far as lights and brake lights, turn signals go, and send power to what we're going to add later on down the road for our ECU. We're going to put a relay panel over on this side, and we'll use the factory wires to trigger that stuff off the ignition switch. So moving along pretty good, even though, like I said before, guys, this isn't a whole lot of exciting stuff in this video, but it's stuff that has to be done regardless. So I'm gonna put you guys on a little time lapse. I want to see if I can get this stuff kind of taped up and run where it needs to go as far as this stuff goes. Alright, so I got everything sorted out. Dimmer switch. I mounted up here on the cage. The cage literally takes up any kind of room to put your foot down there on the floor where it was at. So I figured I'd just put it up here, and if I need to, I can just push it with my hand, make it work. These are all illumination wires with stuff that went to factory cluster. I will use these for our aftermarket gauge lights and stuff as needed. The original under hood harness pigtail I've got ran over there towards the passenger side, and yes, it looks like a mess. I will address that when we get to our computer and all that other stuff, and the stuff that we actually need to run off that leg of that harness. That said, I went ahead and did get a new under hood harness for the engine side. I'll have to cut this open and extract what I need out of it. Same with the headlight harness. I went ahead and got a new one of those. Right here, SKU 21958, this headlight harness. Just so I can connect it up as factory, but these external voltage regulator wires are going to have to go. The horn wires are going to have to be relocated. But the headlight wires and the headlight harness and parking lot stuff should be more than long enough with our flip front end to work. So, anybody curious about the dimmer switch? SKU on it is 4172. So, in theory, once the under hood harness is hooked up and stripped down, everything should work as factory. Brake lights, turn signals, you know, high and low beams, ignition switch, so on and forth. Obviously, this being a race car, it's not really ideal to do it this way, but I figured if I could use the factory car harness, it made some things a little easier. As long as I can trigger everything I need to aftermarket off the ignition wire from the factory harness. And I did go in there and remove the resistor wire. If anybody's curious, between your firewall, and this is going to be helpful for you guys with aftermarket ignition systems, from the red wire on the ignition switch, you will follow it up. It will turn pink. That pink wire is the resistance wire that knocks from 12 volts down to 9 volts for the points ignition. So you can literally depin it from the firewall connector, the car side of the firewall connector, to the ignition switch and solder you in a regular wire in that position, and then you will have regular car voltage on the ignition wire, meaning 12 plus volts up to 14.7 when it's running and alternator's charging. So just a helpful tip that might help somebody out. And I don't guess it does any good unless I show you guys, but this pink wire right here, this is your points resistance wire. See, it says resistor, do not cut or splice, is because when you cut or splice this, you change the resistance and the voltage output of that wire. Well, the thing's tighter than a sardine can. So, the good thing is I can still move the seat back. Can't move the pedals forward, and can't move the roll cage. I knew it was going to be tight. These cars are very driver small inside. They're best suited for somebody under 5'5". So I removed the seat risers. I've already moved the seat back like 6 inches from where it's at. It's almost at this point pretty much in the back seat. If it had a back seat, you couldn't sit in it. So we can already see I moved the seat. Those holes right there are already factory holes that are under the seat bases. I've already moved this seat inward and backwards quite a bit. You can see right there. So I've got some room here, and our brace back here for the back of this nylon seat or plastic seat is adjustable. So I think tomorrow I'm going to move this seat back another, I don't know, I'd say it's probably about 4 or 5 inches. I'm going to go ahead and move it on back and see if I can't improve some room things for myself. Still got a lot of stuff to do in here. I'm not really ready to mount this, but I need to start thinking about how I'm mounting it, so to say. So we got to still put a gas pedal in it, and I've got that gas pedal right there out of that 70 Torino parts car that is now with Bill at Flatbroke Garage. I am going to mount that in there so we can run a cable throttle instead of the rod throttle. Like I said, I need to get a steering wheel mocked up on it, which I've got the original one back. It's sitting right there. I can mock it up. I've also got a mirror and sun visors, but we need to get a windshield before we worry about that stuff. So guys, I know these past few videos haven't been a lot of fun and interesting things, but I try to drop enough helpful information in there that'll help somebody out. Hopefully there's some things in this video you guys can find helpful. And if you don't want to watch the video and you made it this far, just let this thing play in the background. Hit that like, comment down below, and just help me out that way, because it helps YouTube pick this stuff up, gets it out to more people, so hopefully it can help more people. So that said, guys, make sure you check out our friends over at KentuckyMustang.com. There is a discount code for you guys down there in the description below. And if you haven't yet, make sure you like this video, share it with your friends. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button, because it helps me bring you guys more videos where I can explain things and help teach some people that may not know these things. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys, and I look forward to everybody's comments down below. So until next video, guys, thank you for watching. Glad you made it this far, and I'll see you at the next one.